something that was a little bit more uh, like emotionally charged in some ways, or some level of deception, some framing, as opposed to a pure scientific argument of this experiment falsified curvature.
Well, I remember for me, like I was questioning a lot of stuff way before the shape of the Earth, shall we say. Time was one of them, space and all that stuff. I was a big geek into that. But I remember the first time I heard about quote unquote flat Earth and I saw the water, in the different beakers, the different shaped beakers. That's the first time I've ever considered the shape of what we're on. So to me, that was a big moment. And I was into all kinds of stuff, the Art Bell show, and like way years before anybody even heard the term flat Earth.
Yeah, and that's the point, is that you had all of these other this other breadth of knowledge that you could use to contextualize things, and that if there are these other things that have been lied about, then all of a sudden it's on the table for these bigger lies to happen. Whereas if you don't have that fundamental basis of, if everything that they say on the news is real, all of nutritional science is real, all of doctors are correct, medical interventions are all legit, then you don't have a frame of reference to uh, take on that new information of seeing this experiment that falsifies curvature.
Yeah, well, it's all about, like, how should I say it? It's all about, like, when did your Pandora's box open, for example, right? Like, what did it for you, right?
Yeah, and it's usually a straw that broke the camel's back situation.
Kind of like that, yeah, exactly. So for me, it was water. Now, mind you, I was into all kinds of other stuff way before this, right? But I never considered the shape of the earth, right? Never. It entered my mind like, okay, what's the shape of the earth? Never entered my mind.
Yasuke,
Yeah.
comment on the thing you said about measuring water. If
Okay.
water has been measured, then how come everybody's so eager to do some kind of test where you measure the curvature of water? It's never been done, dude. It's an assumption.
Yeah. I'm just saying that, like, a lot of people will say, the only thing that matters is that curvature has been falsified in these particular settings. It's not about whether or not, like, that's true or that's been done or anything like that. It's that nobody actually flips off of somebody doing some experiment that doesn't show curvature.
Whoever said there's no measurements of curved water, there's a guy named Soundly, and they took a high precision GPS tracker and they drove a car over the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge, and they got kind of XYZ coordinates, and they were able to plot those points in like a CAD software and show the curvature of the Earth by measuring it. So that's a very, and that's something you can do yourself. There's a program on Android, I forget the name of it, but you can get the raw GPS coordinates, and you can confirm for yourself if you have a flat enough long stretch of land that there is indeed curvature.
The simple argument that would be applied here is that nobody ever actually gets raw GPS data, and that there are corrections built into the software. And like, there have been examples of this to where, you don't actually ever get raw GPS data. There's all of these corrections that go into it. Therefore, it's not super useful to use on its own.
Well, you could check that. You could use known things. So if you have, let's say you have your house, right? You get a ladder, go up on your roof, test that it shows that you're 10 feet in elevation. Things like that. You could test the GPS to see if there's any built-in biases. And go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the second argument is cool story, bro.
Moving cool stories. It's well documented. I mean, you can go witness it for yourself. There's been multiple people who have confirmed the results as well. I mean, we all agree. I mean, GPS
yeah, bro,
trackers are down to like a millimeter in precision
the
now.
the z-axis isn't the z-axis is not in question though. I mean, if you're talking about up and down, fine. What you're doing is you're extrapolating left and right, down the street or 20 miles away, which could clearly have the corrections cooked in. And actually, the corrections themselves, or even just the data itself, includes an error that's larger than what the curve would even be in the first place. So
I'm not
the
sure.
variability in GPS is greater than even the amount of curve that we're looking for. So you could just claim that based on an optical measurement, but
It's not an optical measurement.
it's optical.
It's a GPS measurement.
This is another one of their like conversational hijacking tactics, where like people are in the middle of trying to progress a conversation about something.
He just
and then
said
hear
that
one argument about the globe.
He literally just said there's no measurements of flat water in quotes, and there's a very famous one in the community.
With all due respect, it isn't super relevant to the point at hand that I was bringing up to bring it to like a specific example of just arguing about something that is or isn't relevant to the point.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, it's like saying you can't measure the table because the ruler's on top of it.
Yeah, this is something that very commonly.
Yes, by using a ruler being the bridge that is perfectly parallel with the water. It's an analogy. So if you measure a table,
is it parallel?
If you measure a table, what device do you use? Use a ruler, right? So
Well,
you put the ruler on top of the table, and in this case, hold on. What? I call it a ruler, 12 inches or a meter or whatever, a meter stick, whatever you want to call it. You place that on top of the surface that you're wanting to measure, right? Is that not how you would?
This is something.
Yeah,
This is something that
Go ahead.
very commonly happens whenever me or somebody else brings up a point that has an analogy that is being talked about to support a different point. People that aren't listening will hear something that they want to talk about and then try to derail the conversation into the specific thing that they want to talk about. Even when like whether or not water has been measured curved or anything like that has absolutely zero to do with the topic that was at hand. Like it's literally irrelevant.
What was the topic at hand?
Talking about general strategy for how to get certain people into controversial ideas.
Well, I was piggybacking off of him saying there was no measurement.
Yeah, and I just posted a picture of the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge. That looks parallel all the way through.
It's the domino effect. Jessica.
Just for the record, I didn't say that it was never measured. It's just people want that straight edge along the surface of water, which if you ask me, maybe it's been done, but why isn't everybody referencing this awesome test that would change their view on things?
Yeah,
I mean, all the Glovers should. I mean, this is the pinnacle in the society. This is equivalent to the 15 degree per hour rotation that Bob did, or the final experiment in quotes. This is on par with those things.
So I'm gonna go back to the point. Giving an example is that so with computer chips, I think that there's something little bit suspect going on with computer chips. That it's not exactly as being said. So I went on a fairly big podcast, and I, in like prop comedy type of style, I brought up a brick and I said, "Hey, this is a brick. This brick has silicone in it. If I refine the silicone in this and do some voodoo magic rituals, I can get this to become a computer chip." And somebody who doesn't have any conception of any of this computer stuff will just say, "Oh, like that's just a funny analogy. It's just going to like wipe right off of their back." But somebody who, it's like, "Oh, voodoo magic rituals making computer chips." That's sort of like planting in a little bit of seed. And for people that know something about that, they're able to actually hear those things. And that is just making a lot of like jokes, references, allusions that don't immediately come out as dangerous. But for people who have some frame of reference for understanding it, have already been sort of pseudo initiated in, it is incredibly valuable as a way to sort of propagate information without, immediately destroying your own credibility with normal people.
Okay, granted. Now, why did you feel important to bring this up, Yasuke? Why, like, this is a topic change extraordinaire? But any particular reason why you brought this up? Curious.
Yeah, so
It
this
seems
is
more
in the
like monologuing than actual topic with a conversation going.
I mean, I've given a bunch of times for people to try to get in, but this was a question that was asked from me by Kai and Riggs a couple days ago. Of, I don't think that going on Candace Owens or Tim Pool is good. In that they are people that overwhelmingly are just kind of discredited by a lot of people, and associating an idea with those kind of people will make it to where, like, okay, I don't trust Candace Owens, therefore I don't trust the things that she puts on her podcast. And in that sense, like, there's I think that there's a little bit more discernment that would need to be done about considering whether or not associating an idea with certain people is a good thing. Whereas other people are like, you should say the truth on any platform that will have you, and just try to get as many eyeballs on flat earth, as many people that can hear flat earth as possible, is the ultimate good. And so what I was just bringing up is sort of a counter to that, when Riggs asked me, what would be my strategy for doing these things if I don't think that the current strategy of just going on any old podcast will be good or bad.
Do you know how to start? I'm sorry, man. It's just that I could have got behind the whole right now, getting into a back and forth with you, with giving you the argument, why is it a good thing? But you gave your feelings and everybody else's additional feelings, or arguments. And therefore, there's no longer an argument to be given because you already gave both sides of the arguments and don't know where you're going to stand. So, come on, make a topic and give your argument about it, and then let somebody else respond to you. That way we can have an argument or some kind of conversation.
I think that's the thing here is it doesn't need to be an argument though. It can be everybody working together for an idea.
His statement is that he doesn't think it's a good idea, and other people think it is a good idea because of other things. So therefore, if you already had the other people's information on the topic, what now? Where do we go from here?
Well, I have a response to what he said.
Okay.
Yes, Kate. What you said, right? Okay, I get it. But how about this? If the idea doesn't get out there and no one hears it, is it even like, this is like if the tree falls in the woods and no one hears it, right? Shouldn't at least the focus be get the idea out there, regardless of who gets it or what platform, and then people could make up their own minds. If the idea doesn't get out there, is it an idea?
Yeah, I mean, the simple way of saying it would be, you know, you, Montreal, will see a bunch of like really bad arguments that people will make for flat Earth. Now, imagine if all of these people, there's people who make every single argument that you don't like that flat earthers make. And they go on Joe Rogan, they go on CNN, they go on Roseanne Barr, they go on all of these different platforms making the worst arguments possible. And like just blatant straw mans, they're kind of stupid. They don't really have answers for questions that people have. You could see that that would be a detriment. So that would just be the sort of counter in terms of like any ears that go on flat Earth isn't necessarily a good thing.
But I think that would then be your fault because you are not willing to go to those places and actually make the arguments.
What
I
he's
mean,
saying is it like first of all, you're assuming that everyone's going to make a bad argument and all the things they say are going to be dumb, right? Which that's a pretty big assumption. I'm sure some good things are going to get through, but even if they're all dumb, right? It's better to have all dumb and people hearing about the subject than zero, because then there's no subject. You get what I'm saying, right?
yeah. I mean, so I would say something that would probably get a lot more people down the track towards flat Earth, right? Would be a guy who has their own platform in non-conspiratorial related things. They go on another big platform and they drop a couple breadcrumbs here and there. Like they're like, oh, like, you know, NASA has a monopoly on the world's helium supply, or, you know, they hint at, you know, the moon map, or any one of these various things that you could do. You drop these breadcrumbs that get people thinking about it without it necessarily being like kind of forced down. Whereas if somebody sees, oh, this is a podcast that is explicitly about flat Earth that is being discussed in that sense, people are going to have a different mindset that comes into it. In the same way that movies propagandize you incognito to where you're not even really aware of it, that is also something that is just a valuable tool to use.
And you keep saying flat Earth, flat Earth, flat Earth, right? It's more than just about the shape of the Earth, to me, anyways, right? It's like to me, flat Earth is like a gateway drug, right? It opens up the all the other stuff, right?
Mhm.
We're at where they say we're at in vacuum, the cosmology, what they say gravity is, what they say 96% of the stuff out there like that. Once we get into that and people start hearing the huge lies, like, and then there's the political lies, there's all kinds of lies, right? The medical lies. Like flat Earth is just a gateway drug, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's right. Hey, sorry guys, I just want to interrupt quickly. I don't want to argue. I just want to say Merry Christmas and sorry if I offended anybody this year. I didn't intend to, but Merry Christmas, guys. Have a good
You're
one.
good.
Drive
Merry
safe.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Same.
Take care, guys.
Yeah, but if you're two normal people on a podcast, somebody brings up, you know, oh, hey, did you see that new SpaceX Elon Musk video in space with the car? And then you just start talking about how it was all made in Bryce 3D. And you just drop that and then don't really expand upon it further. It's like, oh, they've gotten really good at doing things in Bryce 3D. That is very valuable in that it's dropping the breadcrumb without immediately making people not want to. It says it in a way to where people don't immediately clamshell up.
Yeah. Also, other things that I witnessed that I didn't know was possible, like how many religious people are still around, like truly religious people. I up here in Canada, it's like, you know, I thought just my community, like there are a few religious people, but no, that's not the case. There's a lot of religious people around, and the implications of that and what effect that has on our society, our politics, our everything, that blew me away just as much as outer space and all the other stuff.
I'm curious. SC, have you ever gone around and asked those religious people if they believe in a flat Earth or a globe?
No, no, I don't make it a habit to do that, bro. No.
So I was thinking, well, in a way, it seems like the flat Earth, because everyone's saying like, oh, it needs to like go public, go public. It's been public. It's been the topic for like years. It's getting censored, and the people who don't want anything to do with it want to just keep brushing it under the rug because this is the way people always want to treat the truth. People never wanted to actually know the truth. People want to continually brush things under the rug, and so continually trying to make something go viral or go public, of which people already know, is not really revolutionizing anything or changing anything because it's already been on the table. At least in my opinion. So
What
I
aspect specifically are you talking about? That was
well,
pretty
I'm just
general.
talking. Yeah, I'm just talking about like just following up with the what you guys were talking about with flat Earth, like people needing to go on like podcasts to like talk about flat Earth, um, and stuff like that. I don't think it's gonna wake anyone up because I feel like most people have probably heard about it and they've all seen it. It's just a matter of actually having it represented in a way that it could be received properly, I guess.
Bro, most people don't think of this stuff, bro. I remember the first time I explained to my wife what they say Jupiter is, right? How many people have actually, like, if you go out there and say, hey, bro, you know what Jupiter is? Yeah, of course I know what Jupiter is. It's a planet. Now, if you tell them, well, they say it's a gas giant ball in a vacuum, right? And of course, there's no perfect vacuum, but, and they look at you like in shock and awe, like in amazement, right? How many people you think about that in their daily lives?
Not many
Yeah.
people, but guess what? If you told them that was the fact, and you knew that 100%, they would believe you just because they think that that's what everyone else believes, and that's what everyone else thinks. They wouldn't even contest it, and they wouldn't care to contest the idea. So they don't really care whether it's
Exactly.
true or not.
They go right back into their bubble, like in the movie,
Yep.
right?
I have a
Give me
question.
that steak. I know it's not real. I know it's actually gruel I'm eating, right? I'm not even eating anything, but still, I want that steak and make me rich, by the way, and important in the community.
Well, you've seen those tests where they'll have like, 7, 8 people, like plants, and then they'll have like one real person, and they'll be like, "What's 2 plus 2?" And everyone's like, the normal guy, he's like, "Oh, it's 4." And then everyone else is like 5. That guy's like, "Wait, I want to change my answer to 5," even though he knows it's 4. It's just, and that's only a few people. You're talking about the whole world. Like, it's easy to go along with consensus.
I have a question. To engage with Yaska's point, I'm going to ask this simple question. Would everyone here like to only have raw milk and eggs for every meal?
Not me, no.
Right.
No.
Now, no matter how complete and nutritious and simple to prepare and cost effective, no matter what, nobody wants to eat the same thing for every meal. Right. So when it comes to flat Earth, it comes down to just more impressions and variety. There's going to be spicy meals. There's going to be sweet meals. Some are going to be crunchy. Some are going to taste bad. And you can't control the palatability of the world at large. There's a reason that humans in different cultures have a variety of food. It's because like some people are averse to some textures or flavors. Some people have a cultural background. Some people, it just is, what grows in the area. Some people are just limited by cost. And so when it comes to flat Earth, if it is true, then it should appeal to all of those audiences. But you cannot say that, the audience at large can only have one meal and that they can only have the most efficient, nutritious, easy to cook meal. And so in my argument, more exposure, whether it's good or bad, is going to appeal to different people in different ways. And they may not even like it the first time they eat it. They may have to eat it for 2 weeks before they realize, oh, this tastes good. But it's up to the audience to decide whether it was a good impression or not. And in my particular scenario, I had a very I was jaw dropped when I came across flat Earth. I personally didn't take it serious. I found it funny. And then because I found it entertaining, I looked into it more. And here we are today. So I'm not trying to change the nature of people by my supposed what I think is efficient for the movement. I think at this point, if it is true, then it won't go away. So more impressions will allow people to synthesize that concept at their own pace.
Well said, bro. And to piggyback on that, since you were the one that brought it up, Riggs, shout out to you. And maybe you should repost that video. Have you guys seen the video Riggs posted on the artist and his artistic point of view about the moon? I think everybody should watch that, bro.
Yeah, I'm not sure I even agree with the point of the video or the conclusion of the video, but it has so many demonstrations and concepts that people need to be aware of so that they can at least come to their own understandings. But yeah, I'm happy to post it right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just say one more thing on that. I would even add to that they say on new moon, it disappears because it's a few degrees next to the sun and rises at the same time. Another thing to ponder. But yeah, that was an awesome video, man. Awesome. He goes into fading, hazing, how the shadows are, all the stuff that we talk about, but in much finer detail because he's an artist. And it's really cool.
Yeah, once again, I don't necessarily represent or believe in all the things or conclusions he comes to, but for your own development, it's good to understand these concepts. So here you go.
Yeah, I would just say to the point that you started with is that what the strategies that I'm talking about, the strategies that I think would be effective for an individual to use. It's not saying that I'm not trying to control what other people do, just simply providing a different perspective. While I would also say that every time that people are introduced to an idea, it solidifies or calcifies their position on it. And it's a lot easier to teach somebody an idea from scratch as opposed to having to break down all of the views that they already have on something to start fresh. So in the sense for me, when I have what I'm trying to bring up, if I were to try to bring up flat earth ideas with somebody and they've already been, exposed to all of this content in these negative ways to where they just see, dumb flat earther arguing, getting globe smacked by a scientist on some normie TV channel or normie YouTube channel.
Actually, wait, could I add something to this?
Mhm.
I guess in a way the issue is the polarizing nature of how it gets put out there. For example, imagine Andrew Tate came out and promoted flat earth. How many more people would be less inclined to actually believe the flat earth And even though you could be like, oh, well, he went viral and he popularized it and he made it the biggest thing, how many more people would actually turn against the idea of the flat Earth just on principle of associating you with Andrew Tate and now also him being like the representative?
But
It's just like it would,
does it start the discussion though, where a discussion
or does it
previously
end it?
didn't exist?
Well, it will start it for some people, but it'll polarize it for another group of people, just by
But
the
not
nature of how
forever.
it's been
You can't
presented.
control that. Like that.
Yeah, that's true.
This is what I mean. Like it always wears off because the conversation continues to present itself. So no matter how polarized somebody may become, previously they didn't have a position. I would rather somebody come to a position going into a conversation than to not know the conversation exists. Because every impression after that is going to wear on them like a rock in a river, and suddenly they'll have a smooth surface and they'll become vulnerable to engaging with it. Dude, I had a guy who was triggered about it, and 2 years later he came back and, he was so triggered about it, he didn't want to engage, but people kept engaging. And because of that, he was forced to interact because he thought it was low hanging fruit. Come to find out, he couldn't defend any of his points. And then he came into our server and started to discuss it with us at a higher level. And he was like, wow, I didn't realize. Well, he didn't say this specifically, but they didn't realize how serious the discussion was. And they thought it was just, this lowly argument or discussion, that the way that they received it initially. But if they had not received it, there'd be no discussion.
Yeah, so that's kind of that would go into my point that you would want first impressions are really important, and so ideally to get somebody to consider an idea, you want the first impression to be something that is positive, thought-provoking, something like that. Whereas if people have 10 different exposures to flat earthers, having these dumb clips like the interesting clip, or oh hey, I admitted that I was wrong, implying that they were wrong about flat earth. If they have 10 different versions of that where a flat earther gets embarrassed, then that is so much work that you have to do to you have to do so much more work to get past that, whereas it would be so much easier to get somebody into the idea when they don't have all of that baggage associated with it already.
Yeah, and that's fine. We can't control that. You can't control the truth. This is what Kai was alluding to the other day. I think she said it specifically. You cannot control the truth. No matter how somebody receives it, you have to take them where they're at. So, I mean, I'm not even going to dispute what you said. It doesn't supersede my point. And the reality of the situation is that, like, not everyone's going to hear about flat earth from you. And you're just going to have to put up with whatever comes down the pipe.
Yeah. There's a difference between like accepting what is as just a matter of fact, and then looking at a lens of, how valuable was all of the previous exposures that they've had. These are sort of two separate points.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that the Jaren clip is going to get out there in a million different ways. Cause you know why? There's going to be a bunch of hubris, and people are going to, they're going to gloat, and they're going to create engagement. It's going to, rise the ranks. There's going to create more discussion. And you know what they're going to find out? Oh, wait, he didn't actually mean it like that. They took him out of context. They clipped his quote. What did Austin say? What else was going on? Like, people who are actually interested in answers, they're going to care about, like, okay, well, you hear it all the time on Discord. Source. You hear it on Reddit. Source. All these debate channels. Source. They're going to get the source. They're going to go, oh, these guys were just checking it out. Like, why'd they call it the final experiment if they didn't think it was final? Oh, wow. So suddenly they're on the back foot. And that's when the real discussion
gas
starts.
people up, bro. That's a huge propagandized name.
This is the
That's
thing,
clickbait.
like
It's clickbait.
it's like, well, if the whole thing was to appeal to the lowest common denominator, then why even care about the popularity of it in the first place?
Because we can't stop it. It's going to happen either way. If it wasn't the people that we know that are going there, they would have picked someone else. If it wasn't people from our community going on Candace Owens, they might just pick someone else. And no matter what, they're going to pick somebody. So get with the flow. This is what I mean. Like, you can't control what's coming down the pipe. I didn't ask them to make a video on the Memeless channel, which brought 30,000 members into the 24/7 server in 2 weeks. I didn't ask for that. But guess what we did? We made 4 different check-in rooms that had 10 people in each room, packed for 2 weeks. And
They
we
handed
checked-
you guys a Ferrari and you crashed
Dude,
it.
they
and
handed us a
trashed it.
fucking Ferrari, and
you
the
trashed
video
it.
was the most slanderous video. You know, from that video alone, we converted so many people. I'm not even trying to convert. I'm just showing them the evidence. Some of those people are still mods on this server.
Dude, whoever was running that shit, bro. Whoever was running it, I don't know. I don't know if we want to get into a whole thing with that, but
Well, it was
Yeah,
the
no.
worst coverage, and it still brought in the most flat earthers.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say it like this: of for every one person that potentially looks into the idea after seeing the Jaren clip, there's going to be 10 people who otherwise would have potentially had the faculties and had the potential to consider the idea to become calcified to where they are way, way less willing to even consider it or accept the idea. Especially when, even when you do look at it more in context, another point is like, oh, so all of these flat earthers turned on him because he did an experiment and they were afraid of the experiment, and they're now calling him fake because they don't like that he actually did something that was good.
Well, what good are those people to us? I mean, those are people followers. There's they take popular opinion. They listen to their thought leaders. They're not people who are good representatives anyway. If they're not willing to look further, on most topics, probably, then they are clickbait people. We're living in a society of like actual NPCs, and without challenging them over and over and over again, like a child that wants his binky, they're not going to realize they need to engage.
yo, did you see that? Did you guys ever see that NPC Miles guy from like the Drewski and Kai podcast and shit? This guy like walks around like he's an actual NPC. It's pretty neat. To be saying like NPC shit, it's crazy.
Yeah, and that second group that I'm talking about is not the normie, not the complete normie. It is the person who already believes in a ton of different conspiracies.
Sure.
Who, they would have potentially been able to be open to the idea of flat Earth in a different context. But now when they see all of these examples that put flat Earth in a light that sort of completely blocks them off from ever considering the idea again.
Yeah, I can't control that. That's the thing. Like I said, you can't control that. People are going to come to their own conclusions no matter what. And you know what's going to happen? One day, they're going to ignore everything flat Earth, and they're going to be, in some high level situation with a colleague of theirs, and they're going to say that they're a flat earther. Somebody they respect is going to come out to them, and then it's like, oh fuck, why do I keep hearing this? Why do you believe in that bullshit? Well, let me show you. It's just a numbers game, man. I know you try to go back to this impression thing, but no impression is no impression. Like that, there's hardly anybody that you're gonna, like, this calcification you're talking about is going to happen to even people who think of it in a good light when they get first introduced to it, because it is so different from what they currently understand. The only thing you can do or hope for is that they are at least in the discussion. And if they're not in it the first time, maybe they'll get turned off by it 5 more times. And then they'll hear, oh, wow, this podcast that I believes in flat Earth. What is this? Or my colleague or my family member or whoever. Why do I keep hearing this bullshit? It's because it's not bullshit. It's something to talk about. And without impressions, you have no audience. It's just that simple.
Yeah, no. So what I would say to your point of like, you can't control that, and that, yes, I do agree with that, and that there's nothing that I am going to be able to do to stop these things that I think are of as counterproductive from happening. Like, I'm not going to stop people from going on podcasts and associating with like certain figures. It's more of just, this is an observation of the consequences of that, and separating that, and then acknowledging that, and working around that.
Yeah. Well, that consequence is short term, because ultimately the people that are going to be that calcified are followers anyway. So they're just going to reach for consensus.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying, is that there are people that wouldn't have been calcified otherwise.